Oh, oops. Hey, I didn't mean to press record. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Chop and Brew. I am Chip Walton, and finally, we have got a Brew Day episode. I know y'all have been waiting for it. We actually have a series of Brew Day episodes coming up, but I'm going to kick it off with this one. I'm going to let it roll out. It's going to be a fairly long Brew Day episode, and what we're brewing here is a dry Irish stout, but not just any dry Irish stout. I'm kind of calling this a cover beer, not quite a clone, but just like how a cover song is inspired by an original song, but can often riff and kind of like bring in its own personality. This is a cover beer of Guinness Dry Irish Stout based around Northern Brewers' Dry Irish Stout kit. The reason for this was I was looking to brew something for Halloween, for Jonas's birthday weekend, Halloween, having some people through the house, through the garage. I wanted to have something black and dark, but not too big, so a dry Irish stout fit that bill. And then I started thinking, unfortunately, we lost a hip hop icon of sorts on Halloween 2020 when MF Doom passed. So I was kind of thinking, well, MF Doom, he has a line called "Mask on Crooked." He was known for wearing this like metal mask when he rapped. That plays into Halloween. It was just all these things. So I ended up calling this beer, basically it's going to be part of a series every Halloween for the undetermined future years, called Mask on Crooked, which is part of a lyric of a line of one of MF Doom's song. And then the beer is called Guinnesses, which is a track name from MF Doom's Food. So what we're about to do in this episode, you're going to see me brew a dry Irish stout using my 5-gallon mini masher that I made out of an igloo cooler. It's my favorite new brew setup. Before we get brewing, you're actually going to see me kind of talk through a couple of different setups I could have used for this beer. And it's where I talk a little bit about what I call brewer's anxiety, when you just kind of don't know exactly what you're going to do with a beer or a recipe until you literally start doing it. When you have too much equipment and too many ideas, and you haven't figured out what you're doing until you really start the brew day. We're going to see the brew day, and then we're going to talk quickly about its fermentation schedule and how that went. I'm going to give you my tasting notes, and then I'm going to be joined by my cohort, Chuck Gosnell, and he is going to give us his thoughts on the beer. Before we get into the brew day and our tasting notes, a huge shout out to Imperial Yeast for all their support. This beer was fermented with their Darkness strain, which is my go-to for most dark beers. Legend has it, it is the yeast you should use for any beer, specifically chasing down something like a Guinness cover beer. More information on Darkness at imperialyeast.com. And of course, my Patreon party people, I know they're excited about Brew Day episodes because they told me that they are. Join them in supporting the show and get more Brew Day episodes, pro brewer interviews, home brewer interviews, all that good stuff at patreon.com/chopandbrew. Before we head into the garage to get brewing, if you like Brew Day episodes and want to see more of them on Chop and Brew, please like this video. Subscribe to Chop and Brew's YouTube channel. Make sure you hit that all notification bell so that you get an alert or get blasted when new videos post. And share this video with your beer-loving MF Doom or just hip-hop head homebrewing friends. It would mean a lot to us. Now, let's get to the home brewery. Welcome to the Brew Cave, everybody. It is about 6:30 in the morning on October 17th. Happy birthday, Mom! And my brewer's anxiety is at like an all-time high. As you can see, I've laid out several options here. And as with many brew days, I still don't know 100% what I'm going to do. So I've got water heating here. I got 6 gallons. And it's in my mega pot that actually has a false bottom should I decide to mash in this. That's probably not what I'm going to do, but I could mash in this, use this as a mash tun, and then run off into a kettle on the floor I could also have done a brew in a bag in the same pot, take the false bottom out. The problem is it's like 45 degrees up here. So what I'm coming down to is either the 10-gallon mash tun that I've inherited by way of Dawson and Keeler over the years that I've used a lot that you've seen in videos, or my new guy, my little 5-gallon that I've done 2 3.5-gallon batches with, and I'm extremely happy with, except in this case, the grains that we have are 4 or 5 gallons. So I'm thinking about just kicking the tires on this. It's 9 pounds of grain, and see what the 5-gallon mini masher does with 3.5 gallons of water, 9 pounds of grain. See if that maxes it out. That way I will know for the future if I could be doing a 5-gallon batch of in this case it's a dry Irish stout. It's like 1045 I think, or 1049, something like that for OG. If I could be doing more beers inside over the winter and still be doing 5-gallon batches. I don't really want to do 5-gallon batches, but for lower gravity beers, it'd be nice to know if this can handle it. So I think what I'm gonna do is mash into this. If it looks like we're pushing it, I'll transfer it over into this, and then we'll know. We'll have a learning lesson about how much malt this can actually take. There's a pound of preheated, 180 degree water in both of them on the off chance that I use either or both of them. And this water, I just checked, is about 150. So I'm getting to the point where I have to make a decision, and it'll be off to the races after that. Brewer's anxiety, it's real. If you get brewer's anxiety, comment below. Tell me what you do to calm it or to cure it. I mean, obviously the cure for brewer's anxiety is to get like an actual system that you repeat and repeat and repeat and replicate over and over and over. But I think I've mentioned this many times before, like, I never brew the same method twice. I'm really hoping to get this to be pretty much the tried and true method, and then I would only use these guys if we're doing like a big giant beer, or we really wanted 5 gallons and it was like a 1070. But we'll see. We're gonna kick the tires on the little mini masher and see if it can do a low gravity beer at 5 gallons. I've got the 5-gallon mini masher. I have emptied out the preheat water. I got my 9 pounds of malt, which is 6-pound Maris Otter, 2-pound flaked barley, 1-pound English roast barley. Really simple grist. I'm gonna get some water. I'm gonna get about 3.5 gallons of strike water in here, and we will start to pour in the malt and see if we're gonna need a bigger boat, as they say. As I mentioned, the air temperature is pretty chilly today, this morning. This lovely Sunday morning in Minneapolis, St. Paul. So I got the strike water up to almost 170. I assume worst comes to worst, if we need to like flash cool it, all we have to do is stir the grist really well. Let it get kissed by some of this early Minnesota morning air. I might want to not go all the way. I might just do, there we go. I believe that's 3. So let's just start there and see what happens. Because we're working with 2 pounds of flaked barley over here, I'm definitely going to throw in some rice hulls, a couple of big handfuls, because I do not want to get a stuck mash. This is probably about half the grist. Right out of the gate. It's got like this nice biscuity, chocolate biscuit aroma. Man, that color changed almost immediately. I don't know if you can see that well with the light, but that that foam is a nice tan color already because that roasted barley. Pound of roasted barley, y'all. No jokes. No jokes. Keep it dark for your Halloween brew. Keep your mask on crooked. Here we go. Time will tell. Oh yeah, this is definitely going to be able to handle it. So I'm definitely in a position where I'm not worried about adding a little bit more water even. That brought it to just about 4. So 3 gallons of water and then 9 pounds of grain only brought it to about 4 total gallon volume, which I would have thought would be way more. I think I'm going to add more water either way just because that's a really thick grist. So the mash temp called for this is about 154. And we're at about 150 and dropping because of the air. So I'm definitely gonna add a little bit more water. I have a feeling this is gonna be just about perfect. The bottom of this little mini masher has a single, just a long line bazooka, not one of those T's. So I just have to be, cognizant, aware of getting the malt from kind of the sides and around that with some aggressive stirs to make sure we're not missing any good sugars clumped up down there. Come on, give me 152, 152, 154, 152, 151. Oh snap, y'all, it's happening. And this brings us to about 4.5 gallons. I think this is gonna be it. This is gonna be it, y'all. Man, that first addition of water was a thick mash, boy. If anything, it's slipping because I'm stirring all this cold air into it. So it's at about 151. I'm gonna call that probably as good as we're gonna be able to get it, considering the temperature out here. Boom, and that is good to know. All right, time to mash. So recording a quick little bit just for note keeping. I started with 6 gallons in the Megapot. I heated it to about 165, put 3.5 in here, and then 9 pounds of malt, which just barely brought it to about 4, maybe 4.5. It's kind of hard to see in here once it's steamy. We kept adding water to about a total of 4.5 in here, and there's 2 gallons left in the Megapot that I will probably use for either a batch sparge, or I might just do kind of like the old school hand sparge that I like to do. So that's the math. Thus far, the 6 gallons of water looks like it's gonna give us what we need. I might add another gallon in there just for safety, because yeah, we probably want to be able to get 6 at least, if not 6.5 for pre-boil. Yeah, we're doing things in the garage. We're doing math in our head, y'all. All right, it's been 1 hour of mashing. At this point, as you can see, Jonas is up. Yeah, Jonas and Elsa are awake, and we're doing a quick check of the wort. Ooh. So I just took a temperature, and even without stirring it once throughout the mash, usually I come out halfway through the mash and like give it a stir, but things got busy inside. It held the temperature. At least the probe going into the top of this was about 150. So it lost maybe like 1 degree, which is pretty awesome. And as you can see, get your hand out of there. It's about 4.5 gallons total of malt and water. Yeah, and we just took a quick refrac reading of the liquid just off the top, and we used Jonas's hand. Just kidding. We used a thermometer, and we dripped it on the refractometer, and we're at 13 bricks, and that's just like the wort that's pooled on top. I'm sure there's way denser wort at the bottom. So I'm about to take this nugget inside, and then we're going to do a little boil-off action, and then we're going to run off into the kettle. What do you think about that, Jonas? Extra dry Irish Stout. The weird kind of coincidental thing is MF Doom passed on Halloween of 2020. Jonas was born on Halloween 2020. So I like to think there's some kind of like energy transference there. You're looking at the next best MC, the next your rapper's favorite rapper right here, MC J-Rock. Wicked, wicked, wicked. Wicked, wicked, wicked. That was cute, buddy. All right, I'm gonna start some Vorloff. Again, I haven't stirred this at all during this mash. Uh-oh. There's something leaking. Ooh. Black and inky right out of the gate. I mean, this may be ready I think this is just ready to go. Since I didn't stir it during any of the mash and disturb it. I don't know if you can see. I think you can. It is pretty clear and definitely dark as night. Perfect Halloween beer, perfect fall time beer, perfect tribute to the man. Doom. I think I'm gonna do one more here. And then I'm gonna move this over. And we're just gonna start running off, because this looks about ready to go. There we go. Ooh, just like that, y'all. Take a quick reading of these bottom runnings. Oh yeah, that's more like 19 bricks. 19 bricks at the bottom, 13 at the top. So I've got some water heating and we're gonna start doing some of my classic hand sparge. So I'm just grabbing water from the kettle. Got some hot water going over there. Pour it over this Tupperware lid to kind of keep it from pouring down into one spot. It is definitely a compacted mash, so I do hope that this doesn't eventually become a stuck mash. It might have behooved me to possibly give it a stir before I did this, but I think we're gonna be all right. We're gonna be all right. I don't actually worry too much about hot side aeration as a thing on this small of a scale. But for those of you who do, this would be an awesome workaround, and this is also what I use, well, in different setups when this kettle might be lower, like on the actual ground, or maybe it's the kettle over there that I'm running into. This is just an awesome piece of tubing and one of the turnkey clamps. It is super awesome workaround for running off wort in a way that doesn't splish and splash. I love it. I love this mini mash. I love you, mini masher. All right, the boil kettle now has 5 gallons of wort. I wanted more like 6, but the runnings from the mash tun were starting to read about 3 bricks, which is getting a little close to that like cutoff point where people say you want to stop running off because it can get tannicky or husky. So we've got 5 gallons. This is a pre-boil, I guess you could say, at the moment. And it's about 12, it's about 11 and a half. So pre-boil of, let's say, 1046. This is supposed to be a 1042 beer. So I could either go with what we got and have a bigger beer and a 4 gallons-ish of it, but I'd really like to, what I'd like to hit here is the number more than anything, especially since I have such a small period of time to try to turn this beer. I'm trying to turn it in basically 2 weeks' time. So a 1042 beer with Imperial Darkness will ferment pretty darn quick, and I could have that in a keg 2 weeks from now. So I'm going to top it off with water to about 6 gallons, hopefully take another refrac reading and maybe get about 9, maybe 10 bricks, and then my post-boil will be about where it needs to be. So I'm not really great with the math and stuff like this, but I'm assuming maybe that we just did a really good job of pulling sugars at first, but then it ran dry too quick. It got too low in bricks. Somebody tell me how to even that out. Tell me how to equalize that to where I could have gotten my full 6 gallons out of this mash without cheating and topping off with just more drinking water. Let me know what's going on, what I do wrong, y'all. Or right. I mean, it's still pretty successful. I didn't get a stuck mash, and it's beautifully clear, inky black wort. So I am excited about that. I know y'all like how I'm stirring this with the Weber spatula. Yeah! I forgot to grab my spoon. Nothing but class, man. Class all day. And the results are in. 9 bricks. Perfect. So about 1036 pre-boil. By the time we boil for an hour later on in the day, We should hit that 1040, 1042 just about perfect. Bam! What up? Sometimes I do know what I'm doing, or at least I can make it up as I go along, right? That's home brewing, y'all. Hey! It is the next day, so brew day went really well. It was really long, which is kind of the way that I've started shaping my brew days ever since we had the baby. Now, instead of brewing all at one time, I pretty much like space it out through the day, and then I put domestic duties in between. So like I said yesterday morning, I mashed in at like 6:30, can't remember, 6, somewhere between 6 and 7, mashed in, came inside, made breakfast, went back out, did the runoff while Elsa took care of the nugget. We went and did a fall walk with Dawson and his daughter. We did a bunch of other things. I didn't actually boil this wort till the afternoon. I cooled it. As you can see, the wort came out perfect as far as the numbers. It was 1042. You can see the wort was beautifully clear, just this rich, dark brown, borderline black wort. 1042. I got 5 gallons of it. The water outside wasn't able to get it into the 60s, so I put it into a bucket, sanitized bucket, put that in the fridge. I was able to get it to about 74 through the wort chiller. I got it to 60 in the fridge, pitched Imperial Darkness, which is perfect for a beer like this. I've been led to believe it's actually custom built for a beer like this, Guinnesses. And now it is in the kind of the root cellar beer room in our basement, which is rocking at about 64 degrees. So the beer is 64, 66. I'm really happy with that. That's that lower mid-range. I didn't want it in the 70s, which this part of our basement actually is. So yeah, I'm really happy. It's pitched, or day 2. It is bubbling away. It's smelling like fermentation down here in the basement. As soon as I came down, I was like, oh, we got CO2, y'all. I'm just really excited that, again, you know, as anxious as I was for yesterday's brew day, I'm starting to get the pieces of this new way of brewing kind of all put together. I love the little mash, the mini mash tun, running that off into the kettle to a bucket. You know, it's a little bit of jumbled activity, and my ultimate goal is to get the grain father up and running here in the basement so that this winter I can brew and not even worry about outside. I kind of lost track of the brew day yesterday as far as the video was concerned. I think we left off at mashing and running off. I did collect about 6 gallons of wort. It was higher than I had hoped for pre-boil, but I went ahead and boiled just to see what would come of it. I put in 1.5 ounces of cluster at 60 minutes, and then I put in the other 1/2 ounce at 0 at flame out, kind of whirlpool those as it was cooling. Usually a dry Irish stout would just be that bittering charge, but I figured MF Doom, a little improvisation, a little freestyle. We're going to throw that other 1/2 ounce of hops in, get a little bit of old school cluster hop goodness on top of the malty base. I watered it up to about 6.5 gallons. I think it's going to be a really good beer. It's definitely going to be dark. That is for sure going to be a great Halloween weekend tribute beer. So we'll check in on the progress if need be. If not, it's a pretty simple beer. It's 1042. It should just ferment pretty quick. Goal is to get it fermented as quickly as possible, cold crash it, get it kegged, quick carb it. It's the way we do. Now that you know how the brew day went, some quick notes on how the fermentation went. I kept it in that mid-60s range. I pitched at OG 1042 on October 17th. 2 days later, October 19th, it was down to about 1013, 1014. And 2 days later, after that, so 4 days total, it reached what turned out to be its final gravity at about 1009, 1010. So a great fermentation. When I was trying to turn a beer around in just about 2 weeks and hadn't made a starter, didn't even aerate this stuff. Like, I really just kind of did the shake and bake bucket method and just, you know, had faith that my packet of darkness would do the job. It sure the hell did. So as you can see, our final beer is black in color with a really nice, fluffy, rocky, tannish head. The aroma is coffee, dark toast, slightest whiff of like a dark sugar or molasses, but really not that big. The roast really runs the show on the aroma. The roast also runs the show in the flavor. It is roasty, almost to the point of acrid, but in a classy way. Chocolate, bitter chocolate, woody. I think some of that wood comes from kind of like the late addition of the cluster hops because it's known for being woody and herbal. It's got a little bit of the slightest ester of kind of dark cherry that I think comes from the darkness yeast. But all in all, it's wonderfully dry. Because that mash temperature was a little lower at 151 versus 154. It boiled just a couple minutes longer due to being sidetracked. It boiled for about 10 minutes longer. So that probably increased the bitterness a little bit too. And there's the slightest bit of this mineral kind of chalkiness to the finish that makes it extra dry on top of the bitterness, the roastiness, the low mash temp. It's just, I would call it extra dry Irish Stout. But don't just take my word for it on the tasting notes for Guinnesses. I called in some backup. My buddy Chuck Gosnell stopped by. He gave his thoughts on the beer, and we riff and rap just a little bit about what MF Doom means to us, some of our favorite albums, and some thoughts on making this an annual brew project revolving around Halloween.
Frustration, empty rhetoric, cold as winter in Connecticut, compassion like a deficit, thought it was love like, sent from above, not a soul.
So we're here to wrap up the episode, and I'm joined by a Doomophile and cohort. Y'all know Chuck G. Chuck, cheers. Social distance-ish. Cheers. I'm properly attired in my MF Doom shirt so we can drink mask on crooked Guinnesses. Guinnesses.
Guinnesses.
Man, it's
Guinesses.
It's only one extra syllable, but it like Guinnesses. Guinnesses.
Guinnesses.
It's kind of like Simon Says, but Guinness says fall on the floor. So it's a dry Irish stout. We've already pre-tasted it and talked through the recipe. Hit me with it, Chuck.
Yeah, so for me, this is like, you get that like black coffee, that like high cocoa chocolate, not the milk chocolate.
No, like that bitter baker's chocolate.
Mm-hmm. And then like the bitter, it's like you don't know if it's the roast or the hops. Mm-hmm. It's probably a little bit of both.
Yeah.
And it's totally okay, like kind of floating back between one and the other. I think Doom would have liked that.
Floating back between one and the other, I think Doom would have liked that.
Dry, like so dry it almost makes you thirsty, like for another sip.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to call this the extra dry Irish
Yeah,
stout.
I mean, this is my second half glass in a very, very short but undisclosed amount of time.
I should add, we're drinking this this garage is like 38 degrees, but the beer itself, when I put it in this mini crowler, was 54. I had to kick the dry Irish stout keg out of my upright fridge so I could get a cider in and get it carbonating. And my plan was to just kind of like cycle them, like do 2 days, so everything was keeping cold and carbonated. But I started drinking off this keg just off the basement floor, not laying on the basement floor, but
just slurping it.
Yeah, the keg being chilled by the basement floor at about 54, 56. Man.
Oh, it's perfect.
It is awesome.
Like there's a reason that the Brits drink their beer a little warmer than we do, and it's for beers like this. Like it just makes everything just kind of pop.
Out here, it's actually like warm. It tastes like, ooh, we're having a tea.
Yeah.
We're having like I can see your breath. I'm surprised the beer's not steaming.
Pinkies up.
So yeah, this is basically an attempt at Guinness. Northern Brewers Dry Irish Stout kit brewed in shout out for the Halloween party. I'm surprised it lasted this long. That's why there's only a mini growler. Like I didn't want to risk filling a whole one and then Elsa not getting any more out of the keg. But it's going on December, as you can see by the Christmas tree. So yeah, this beer did its job. It was there for Halloween weekend, and then it's kind of like rode through. I've listened to many Doom albums and collaborations, and man, freaking the Mouse and the Mask. I forgot how amazing that album was.
Yeah.
Like,
Mad Villainy is probably my fave.
Okay.
Yeah, Mad Villainy I think is my favorite like Doom collab album.
And then like Special Herbs, dude. His Special Herbs instrumentals are just like top notch. Even if you don't like hip hop for some reason, shame on you. And B, you should check out MF Doom's special herbs because they're just beats, they're just instrumentals. It can get you through like a lot of like busy work at work, or it can get you through bike ride, car ride, or if you do like hip hop, you can freestyle over them in your car, like Chip Walton, about people walking their dogs in fast food restaurants.
And it's just good music, and it's one of those things like it'll make you not even realize that you're nodding your head, and you'll just be like, oh,
Yeah.
I am. It's just like it's good. It's good music. It's not necessarily just like straight down the narrow aisle of hip hop. So
Yeah, and Doom himself is just an amazing lyricist. Like,
Yeah.
more poet and architect with words than probably most people.
yeah, one of the cleverest
Yeah.
lyricists like in our time.
They call him your favorite rapper's favorite rapper for a reason. So
Yep.
we'll have to get together, and so Mask on Crooked is going to be a series. We'll do it every Halloween. Chuck and I have had a couple of ideas. They'll always be named after songs. It'd be cool to do one like sometime soonish in the next couple of months that has to age, but then even do like a younger one closer to Halloween. So we have like something big and sour or big and dark, and then like a session CDA or something else. They don't always have to be dark. I don't know why I'm like pushing the dark beer agenda. I agree with you on
It's that time of year.
all the tasting notes. It is very dry, super roasty, almost acrid, but in an enjoyable way. I could see if this was getting pushed on nitro, smoothing that out and just being like
absolutely.
rock and roll.
Yeah. Yeah.
For some reason, I thought it kind of tasted like blunt wrap. From what I hear, that tastes like on the internet.
Yeah, I
what
could totally get like that, like kind of like that little ashy, like, oh, let me tap this, like.
I'm talking about
Take
more
to
like
the
when you're
pass.
licking it to seal it, and it has like tobacco leaf and these kind of like almost kind of chocolatey, I don't know, like tea leaf, tobacco leaf.
Yeah, just use White Owls. I didn't spring for the nice fancy flavored swishers or anything like that.
All right, peace. R.I.P. Doom. Spell the man's name in all caps if and when you spell it. Cheers.
Yeah.
That's all right. Not too nice. Why would we do anything too nice?
We're in the garage.
Yeah, right. In the garage.
We're in the garage.
My beers. All right. Why don't you scoot just a little that way so people don't call us out?
Distances.
Hey, this is half of me and half of him. And we're
Drinking all the Guinnesses at all the distances.
social distances. Drinking Guinnesses. Like it. All right.